All right, what's happening, everybody? It's your boy Akeen, and welcome to the Pro Football Exclusive Fantasy Football Blog. Here to talk about the top 10 tight ends of the 2011 year in fantasy football. Rounding up the top 10, at number 10, Dustin Keller of the New York Jets. 850 yards receiving this year to go along with 5 touchdowns. He was Mark Sanchez's top receiver this year for the Jets. At number 9, Brett Selleck of the Philadelphia Eagles. He quietly gained some good yardage this year, especially after the deal with so many quarterback changes this year, going with from Michael Vick to Vince Young and back to Vick, but he still had a great productive year getting into the top 10. At number 8, Vernon Davis for the San Francisco 49ers. He had a good year to go along with Alex Smith, who was a surprise sleeper at quarterback in fantasy football play. Especially in the playoffs, we've seen him this year just recently lose the loss against the New York Giants. He caught both the touchdown passes thrown from Alex Smith, and he had a great game and a great playoff year this season. Going on at number 7, Antonio Gates of the San Diego Chargers. He struggled in the first half, but he ended up bouncing back from injuries in that second half, and he had a great second half, receiving some footballs from Phillip Rivers. At number 6, Jason Witten of the Dallas Cowboys. Honestly, I don't really think he had too good of a season this year. Yes, he still made it to the top 10, but his best game this year was just for 15 points, and I thought he was going to do a lot better. He was my number 1 tight end coming into this season, but he quietly had over 900 yards receiving this year, and I don't really think he did too well in fantasy football play each week, especially in that second half where he struggled. But he had a couple of good games, but the best game being 15 points. I expected at least 2 20-point games this season. Even though he still made it to the top 10, I don't really think he was too much of a good impact for fantasy football teams out there. At number 5, Jermichael Finley of the Green Bay Packers. He had 787 yards receiving to go along with 8 touchdowns, and he was breaking long strides in most of his catches. He's hard to tackle down, and he gave you some good yards after the contact. At number 4, Tony Gonzalez of the Atlanta Falcons. I was wrong with this guy. I did not put him in my top 10 preseason, but he made it to the top 5 at number 4. That was very shocking to me, and I humbly apologize to Tony Gonzalez himself. I can't believe I doubted this guy. I thought because of his old age, I didn't think he was going to do too good, but he still had an outstanding year, making it to the top 5, being one of the top receivers of the Atlanta Falcons this season. At number 3, Aaron Hernandez of the New England Patriots. One of 2 players in the top 3 this season. Aaron Hernandez had over to go along with Rob Gronkowski, 2,200 yards receiving between the two, and they both had great touchdown pass receivers this season, over 5 each. At number 2, Jimmy Graham of the New Orleans Saints, the Golden Graham, who I like to call him. He had an outstanding year, over 1,300 yards receiving, being one of the top receivers for the New Orleans Saints, and obviously the sleeper of the year. I had him as my sleeper coming into the preseason of fantasy football, and he had an outstanding year, being the number 2 tight end in the NFL. And at number 1, the number 1 receiver, the tight end this season, along with Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski. He broke an NFL record for tight ends and touchdown receptions with 17 this season. He had an amazing year, and I think he's going to have a lot of all-pro seasons coming in forward to his career. Now, going back to the New England Patriots, I was very shocked that both these tight ends cracked the top 3 of overall tight ends. Between these 2 players, had over 2,200 yards receiving, and I think both these 2 players are Pro Bowl caliber, all pro type caliber. Yes, Aaron Hernandez as well. Don't forget, he was a John Mackey Award winner for the best tight end in college football, and I think both these 2 players are talented. The difference between the 2, Rob Gronkowski, he has more of the size advantage over Aaron Hernandez, so he's actually hard to tackle. But Rob Gronkowski, I'm looking forward to see how well he would do for the Patriots for the next coming years. I really think he has a couple of chances, more opportunities to become first-team All-Pro and more years in the future. Now, I already told you that my sleeper this season was Jimmy Graham. Obviously, the bust for this year for the tight ends is Zach Miller of the Seattle Seahawks. He came from the Oakland Raiders, and I was pretty shocked that he did not do too well this season. 233 yards receiving this year and 0 touchdowns. I thought he was going to do so great for the Seattle Seahawks, no matter who was going to be at quarterback, because being with a struggling Raider offensive team for the past couple of seasons, even when he first came into the NFL, he had over 500 yards and in 4 seasons, and I thought he was going to do well for the Seattle Seahawks. I thought this was a great acquisition, but I was proven wrong. Yes, he had to deal with some injuries, but he had pretty much nothing to show for this entire year. He had no games where he had at least 10 points, and that was terrible. I thought he was going to have at least a 15-point game this season, but he was the bust this year for the tight ends, and that's pretty much all I got to say. Hopefully he does a lot better next season in his second year for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the next time I'm going to catch you guys is tomorrow to give you my top 10 defenses this season. Thank you for watching this vlog from Pro Football Exclusive. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.